Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Salem Giovanna. Welcome to my online badge assignment. Allow me to take you through the journey of making my online badge assignment. I have learned some aspects throughout this process of making this model. I have learned to trust my creativity because at first I was doubting myself. I have also acquired the skill of being patient throughout the process of this. I have also gained the skill to take good care of myself, since the brain consists of nerves that cannot be repaired after damage. As I have learned that painting and reading improves your brain, I have also taken that into consideration to help train my brain to become more enhanced with more knowledge and new vocabulary. Now, sit back, take a cup of coffee and relax as I take you step by step on what I was doing and what I'm showing you right now. These different parts are the parts of the brain. The upper part is the cerebrum, which consists of 4 lobes. The lower part is the spinal cord, which is shaded in gray. These are the ingredients that I'll be using. Each one of them represent each part of the brain. Allow me now to dice the onion so that it can fit nicely on the cerebellum. It is important for making postural adjustments in order to maintain balance. Through its input from vestibular receptors and proprioceptors, it modulates commands to motor neurons to compensate for shifts in body position or changes in load upon muscles. Now I'm placing the onion on top of the cerebellum so that it can be a good representation of this part of the brain. I thought the part of placing these onions was gonna be easy, but then, as you can see, the struggle is real. Now let us move on to the next part of the brain, which is the frontal lobe, which is responsible for voluntary movement, expressive language, and managing higher level of thinking, such as cognitive skills, capacity to plan, organize, initiate, self-monitor, and control one's responses in order to achieve a goal. Using my teaspoon, I'm spreading the coffee nicely so that it can fit on the frontal lobe, carefully without it spilling on the sides. Now moving on to the next part of the brain, which is the occipital lobe. This part of the brain is also called the visual cortex, concerned with processing visual information. Different areas look after spatial perception, color, and movement. Sight is the main function of the occipital lobe. The Whitbread's cube is placed nicely on top of this part of the brain. Now working with the partial lobe. It is the top part of the brain, represented by SEMB, and is responsible for sense of touch and interpreting visual things or visual information. This part is also responsible for your spatial awareness and navigation skills. Now working with the temporal lobe, which is represented by the turmeric spice. It is located on the other side of the brain and is linked closely to your hearing. Here you process things you hear into things that make sense, including language and other things. It is responsible for object recognition. I'm spreading it nicely using my spoon. Moving on to the spinal cord, which is represented by bread. It is the information superhighway of nerves connecting the brain to the rest of the body. It runs from the brain to the bottom of the spine and is protected by the spinal column. The maize meal here represents the brainstem, which is the central part of the brain and goes to form the spinal cord. It is made up of the medulla oblongata, the pons, and the midbrain. It links the cerebrum to the cerebellum. It controls the nerves going to the face and neck. It is also in charge of all the things you are not doing on purpose, such as breathing, sleep, and air circulation. Working very carefully to separate the maize meal from the turmeric spice. Now all the parts of our brain have been dotted out and represented by different ingredients. Now we're looking at a closer view of the brain. These green cards being placed are the labels of each part of the brain. Here I'm making sure that the bottom part of the green card is aligned nicely to the partial lobe. Down here we are having our temporal lobe. There is the occipital lobe, and at last there is our frontal lobe there. The green cards have been aligned nicely with each of these parts represented. The spinal cord is viewed from down there. Then our brainstem is right there above the spinal cord. Our cerebellum is next to the spinal cord, and the occipital lobe next to the partial lobe, and the frontal lobe above the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe is found underneath the frontal lobe and the partial lobe. This unfortunately marks the end of my video. I hope you learned something from yours truly, Salem Dlovan.